All right, kids, we're about to learn our next data display. So the next data display we're going to talk about is one called histograms. So let's go ahead and get started. So histogram or histogram. So a histogram, it looks kind of like a bar graph, but it's just a little bit different. For this graph, I kind of want to draw an example one first, just so you can really understand what the vocabulary is, because it's a little bit more complex. So on the y-axis, okay, remember y to the sky, y up and down, this is always frequency, okay? Frequency, for those of you who don't know it, or those maybe who do, if you're like a musician, frequency is the number of times something happens. Or something occurs, okay? So your y-axis is always your frequency. And your x-axis is always split into what we call bins, okay? So if I make this too wide, too wide, too wide, too wide, these are bins. Bins are what are like intervals. So like 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25. Those are called bins, okay, or intervals. It's kind of what you go up by, okay? So each bar in the histogram goes up, it has a bin. So if I was to say number of times you've watched the movie Up, and so I said, okay, if you've watched it between 0 and 5 times, raise your hand. If I had 2 kids raise their hand, I would put my bar at 2, because this is showing that 2 people in my class said that they've watched it between 0 and 5 times, okay? Then I could say, or 0 and 5 times, excuse me. If I said, if you've watched it between 5 and 10, raise your hand, and there was 1 person, I would draw my bar here for 5 to 10. See how this is showing 1 person has watched it between 5 and 10 times. If I said you've watched it between 10 and 15 times, and I had a bar that went all the way up here, that means 1, 2, 3 people have watched it 10 to 15 times. If I say, okay, who's watched it 15 to 20, and no one raises their hand, I can't draw a bar, because a bar represents it happening, because frequency is the number of times it happens, so I have to leave it blank. And then lastly, if you're someone crazy like me and you said, how many times have you watched the movie? And it was way up here. Okay, we had 4 people say that they've watched it between 20 and 25 times. So times watching movie would be our title. Okay, so that's what a histogram looks like. So this shows us that 2 people in my study have watched the movie between 0 and 5 times. 1 person has watched it between 5 and 10 times. 3 people have watched it between 10 and 15 times. And 4 people have watched it 20 to 25 times. So frequencies are a little different. So again, what we call this, these are called bins or intervals. Okay, so the research is really out there on how many bins you should have, because you can really determine that on your own. I could have made this 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30. I just made that up. When you decide your bins, it's good to have anywhere between like 5 and 20 bins, okay? Now, the larger your data set is, the more bins you need. The smaller your data set is, the less bins you should have, okay? So again, just to recap, you need to have, between 5 and 20 bins. More bins, the more. Frequency is the number of times it happens. It's always on the right. And your x-axis, okay, is always where you have your intervals or your bins, okay? So let's go ahead and take steps on this, and we're going to do one as we do it, because this one's a little more complex, as you can see. So step 1, order least to greatest. It's always good to order your data least to greatest. It really helps you to organize it. I already did that for you. I'm going to write it down now just so we can get started. So let's say we had 6, 7, 10, 12, 12, 17, 30, 32, 34, 40, 45, 45. Okay, so I ordered my data least to greatest. I did that for you. Step 2, we're going to say, okay, step 2 is going to be to find your range, okay? It's good so you just know how spread your data is. So find range. So our range is our highest, again, minus your lowest. So for this example, it's 45, take away 6, which is 39. It means our data spreads by 30. So if I counted up by ones, I'd have to go all the way from 6 to 45. That would give me 39 bins. That's too much. So I can't go up by ones. If I go up by twos, it would still be way too many, right? So you have to pick a bin interval that's going to work for you. There's no right answer here, and I know for some of you who are black and white mathematicians, it's really hard. You want to just know the right way to do it. It really doesn't matter as long as you use, the correct amount of bins. So if I count my data points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 data points, I should probably use 5 or 6 bins. I should use the smaller side because it's not that much data. And if I spread it out too much, then what's the point of doing a histogram, because then it doesn't really serve a purpose. So I'm going to do I'm going to make my bins, my bin intervals 10. So that's my step 3 is decide on bin intervals. And I decided I'm going to do 10 because then I can do 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50. And that gives me 5. It's on the lower end of it, but I just think that will work best for our data so we can really group it together. Okay. So then step 4 is to create what's called a frequency table. Create, oops, started writing in that one, frequency table. When you create a frequency table, okay, that's when you group it based on how many times it happens. Now, you don't have to make a frequency table if you want to skip ahead, but I like to do it because it really just helps me get organized and make sure I don't miss any data. So this would be my bins, and my Y would be my frequency, the number of times it happens. So my bin, if I'm going up by tens, I'm going to have to go 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and 40 to 50, because my highest is 45, so I would have to stop at 45. Now, let's go ahead, and now we have to count where each of our data points go. So 6 would go in the 0 to 10. So I'm just going to make tally marks. 7 would go in 0 to 10. 10. I have 2 spots it could be. Now, I'm going to give you a little tip. We're going to write a star here. Lies on edge equals goes to higher. Okay. If it lies on the edge of a bin, so it lies on the edge of 2 bins, you go to the higher bin. Now, I use this example. If I was running a workshop and I said, okay, I need all 0 to 5-year-olds, all 0 to 5-year-olds, you're going to meet in the cafeteria. And then I say, okay, all 5 to 10-year-olds, you're doing a different activity. You need to go into the gym. 5 to 10-year-olds, go into the gym. If you were a 5-year-old, you'd say, wait, I could go 2 spots. So just what you need to think of is that 5-year-old is going to go to the gym. They're going to be with the older kids. So you go with the higher one. Think, I'm a little too old for these 0-year-olds. I'm going to go be with the older kids. So you always put any number that lies on the edge of 2 bins into the higher bin. So that means, and I'm going to put little check marks here that I've got them. So that'd be 10 to 20 is 1, 2, 3, 4. 20 to 30, I have 0. Oh, I did tick, so I should probably do tick marks again. I have 0 between 30 and 40 because this 30 doesn't go into 20 to 30. Remember, it goes with the older people. So 30 to 40 is 1, 2, 3. And 40, again, goes in the higher bin. 40 to 45 is 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now I'm ready to build my histogram. So step 5 is build histogram. Okay, so if you look at my example above, okay, remember you put your bins on the bottom and you put your frequency on the side, and the bars go as what matches the frequency. Okay, so I'm going to do this in a different color. I'll do blue. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. My highest frequency is 4. Okay, so I'm going to write here frequency. Remember, we always label. This one is going to be my bins. And this is going to stand for, let's pretend it is number of how much money you got in your pocket. So money in pocket. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bins. I'm going to make them 3 wide because why not? Let's see if I would make it 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. So I'm going to make them 3 wide. Doesn't matter how wide you make them. It's really your choice. So this one would be $0 to $5 in my pocket, $5 to $10 in my pocket, $10 to $15 in my pocket, $15 to $20 in my pocket. Oops, I forgot I was counting up by tens. I was doing that for another problem. Let me just erase that there. That's why I have these erasable pens. And let's try that again. $0 to $10 in my pocket, $10 to $20, $20 to $30, $30 to $40, and $40 to $50 in my pocket. So this bin, this frequency tells us that 2 people have between 0 and 10. So I make my bar too high. This tells me that 4 people have between 10 and 20. So I make my bin go up to the 4, see how the bars are touching. And there you go. $20 to $30 is no one, so I leave it blank because if I put something there, that means someone had it and there was no one that had it. 30 to 40 was 3, so I go back up to 3. And 40 to 50 was 3, so then I just continue that box over. And I'm done. Step 6 is going to be, or we'll add it over here because we don't have room. Step 6 is put a title. And we already did that. We put bins. The bins were money in pocket, and the frequency was our y-axis. So I could always add a label to the top if I wanted to. So money in pocket. Okay. So that's a histogram. Histograms are just like bar graphs. All they do is you separate, you order your data least to greatest. You see how far spread it is apart. You pick your number of bins or what you want to go over by. You decide how many people fit in each bin, remembering that if someone lies on the edge, they go with the older kids. And then you just show. So this could tell me, if I had not seen this data, I could say, okay, 2 people in your group had between 0 and $10. I couldn't tell you specifically. That's a limitation about histograms. I can't tell you exactly how much they had, but I know that 2 people had between 0 and 10. I know that 4 people had between 10 and 20. No one had between 20 and $30. 3 people had between 30 and 40, and 30 people had between 40 and 50. Again, I don't know the specifics, that's the limitation, but it's nice that it groups all of this huge long list of data up here. It groups all of it to just be this nice little graph.